more of a bottom-up person. I like to see what's happening and enable people to do what they want to do, like take the energy they have and jujitsu it into something positive. The company retention as well too, like people come in the company and they want to have a voice and make a change, and if you don't encourage them, then they go somewhere else where they're heard as well too.
There are very few tools that are going to work for every single project and every single vertical, so what we really have is more of a list of recommendations, and then if someone meets with us, we kind of help them figure out what the tech stack for their individual project will be, and let's kind of say, these are the tools that you must use. That goes for everything from security cameras to reality capture to, say, the only thing that is mandated is the project management tool.
Yeah, so I think it's more on like the data governance and the data strategy, because people are putting in specs and contracts, into the public domain, and we shut that down and brought in Copilot and closed off the ecosystem of these AI tools into our internal network behind the firewall.
So definitely bottom up is happening, and do you want it or not, it's happening, right? It's just a question, will you realize that this person who joined you, right, in your company is this person who's going to bring you this change and innovation?
So we're going to be covering a topic on how construction companies are operationalizing innovation. We've got some great construction companies here, ETRO, Vancouver-based organization that's been growing really phenomenally in Canada. EllisDon, which is one of the greatest Canadian entrepreneurial stories ever, probably. Coast to coast, one of the largest construction companies within the Canadian borders, and actually the largest now in Canada only. Skanska, I don't think needs any introduction, but they're kind of one of the biggest players, and of course a lot of folks in construction look at what Skanska is doing to understand technology. And then ARCO Murray, which is also quite a group of companies to be frank, I think 6-7 billion in annual revenue last year. Not many folks in Canada may know them, but they've expanded into Canada as well, in Toronto and other areas, and work on fantastic projects. So we'll start off with Catherine. She's Director of Innovation in VDC for ARCO. So she's got a very, very good background. I'm not going to be able to cover it all, but I'm going to say a few highlights there. Really right now, if you think about the key piece that Catherine's going to be able to shed light on is how design construction technology is being used and operationalized within ARCO, but also other opportunities for innovation that they're working on. Right next to her, we've got Albert, who is also the Director of Emerging Technologies at Skanska. Again, quite a crazy background there. Very excited to come to Vancouver, he was saying earlier on. There are some differences culturally for some of the Americans, so we don't have guns up here and stuff like that, so that's one of the things we were trying to get used to culturally before we got started. But one of the things I think, right to conceal state is where Albert's from. But one of the things that's actually really interesting too is Albert's background went to Dalhousie, and that's one of the great architectural universities in Canada for people that don't know, so really cool. And now with Emerging Tech Group, you can imagine bringing in that design background, construction background, and kind of trying to lead all that together. We've got Patrick Lalonde, who some of you may not know, but is kind of a legend. So we were walking on the street yesterday with Justin and a few other folks from the conference. And a random guy stops us and says, "Hey Patrick, how you doing, man? I haven't seen you in years." And all of us were like, "What's going on?" Like, this is just Patrick of EDC, but he's a local celebrity. He's been doing this stuff for about 15 years as well now. He used to teach the courses at some universities out in Eastern Ontario as well, or Eastern Canada. And has been at EllisDon kind of since the BIM department kind of started to what it's become now with innovation, all those kind of things. So great to have that as well. And then last but not least, Xenia, she came to Canada from Germany, worked for Straubing. Some of you may know Straubing. They're a really big player, really, really kind of cutting edge as well. We had the opportunity to work together, us three at EllisDon previously. Xenia kind of led a lot of the efforts in this region. So a lot of the hospitals that you see that Fraser Health has, she was kind of the brain behind that, from the asset information to the VDC strategy. Ironically, she introduced me to cmBuilder as well. And yeah, and we piloted it, like Javi was telling a story the other day. It didn't work out. This was what, early 2018 or something? That's right. Yeah. And then what happens a couple of years later, we keep innovating the product, and now you look at the folks in the room. So it just shows you that things don't always work out, but construction companies are looking and revisiting. So if you get a no, it doesn't mean it's no forever. With that kind of covered, maybe we can jump into it now. We'll kick off with Xenia's kind of take here. The first kind of piece that we want to get into is, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have maybe specialized VDC roles, innovation roles, any of that kind of stuff in the industry. Now we've got a lot more of that. So this is kind of a question that comes up a lot is, do we start top down if we're trying to kind of grow and go into this group, or do we work bottom up? Is there a right answer there? How do we focus on helping kind of establish a lot of these new roles that are specialized?
Yeah, so actually I wanted to share a story as I thought about this question. This question is always was kind of on my burner. Like day before, yesterday, I heard kind of similar stories, your experience in the construction industry. So where I started back in 2006, before my architectural degree, I had to do architectural construction practicum before the university, back in Germany. So before personal phones, but already with personal PC, personal computers were available. So my first job was, I went to customs homes and I had to prove that the bill that we received from the drywallers is correct. So basically I was measuring drywalls and putting them in the notebook. And notebook, guys, like Germans, right? They had printed columns in this book where you had a wall thickness, height, and length, and had to fill out this linears, putting additional tags in which room it was and which wall I was measuring. So obviously I was super scared to do my work correctly and prove the bill, right? It was all about money. And the first thing where I was like, I'm so scared to do a mistake in these numbers that as I came back to the office, I was putting that in Excel spreadsheet. Where I was like, okay, so this is my end result, this is the sum. Where my boss was saying like, what is this? Why you're working on a computer? You received this notebook. This is our archive. You have to put all numbers there. And I'm like, well, it's the same. I just like type it up. That's additional step. Yes, but I'm typing on the here or there. It doesn't matter, right? So basically, my story is, and maybe some of you can relate to that. I was not in the construction, right? I was new to this industry. I was just stepping into the university. But already my first innovation was like, what the heck are you doing? We have this procedure, this is our archive, you have to put all your notes in this book, what they call it. So I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get it something. But what I see right now, more and more people are coming, and they have as well vision how we, people who are working here for years, supposed to work. And as we are facing these experienced people, we're like shocked how sometimes stupid, sorry, a word is coming out, but sometimes it's super stupid what is coming out or happening on construction sites or in the design, where we are not speaking about innovation and AI, where like cannot be the truth. So definitely bottom up, it's happening, and do you want it or not, it's happening, right? It's just a question, will you realize that this person who joined you, right, in your company, is this person who is going to bring you this change and innovation, and you're hearing to this person, or you're just losing that? Obviously, I haven't continued with this company, I was done with this job. Yeah, and then obviously as well, I heard you speaking on all innovations, how your leaders, we as a leaders, driving this support. And I am blessed to work for ETRO, and for sure you're following ETRO, if not, do that. Mike Marley, it's very my Disney world. He's the person who sees this future. He is visionary, and working under him by or what he is imagining, and I am the person who is realizing that, analyzing that, and putting that in practice. That's an easy task. It's an easy task for me. But without him, yeah, it will be the first case scenario.
No, that's awesome. So essentially, we're stifling people that come into the industry with fresh ideas by saying, this is how we've always done it. So that can kill motivation. Then the other thing is you need the field to be able to bring ideas up because that's the people closest to the work. And then you need to have top-down vision because if there's no vision, if there's no mandate, then how do you make everything kind of work together?
Yeah, that's.
That's it. I mean, Albert, I'd love your opinion because Skanska is dealing with a different scale maybe compared to ETRO. Same kind of thing, top-down and bottom-up, or is it a little bit more prescribed?
Yeah, so first of all, if I describe myself, I'm more of a bottom-up person. I like to see what's happening and enable people to do what they want to do, like take the energy they have in jiu-jitsu it into something positive. If someone from the bottom, or I wouldn't say bottom, but someone in the field has an idea, you don't want to say you can't do that, but then a lot of times we have solutions that are similar to what they want, that we already are maybe enterprise solutions, possibly like cmBuilder, if they're doing logistics and they want to use like Synchro or something, it's like, do you know that we have an in-house solution or something similar?
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom-up solution, you don't want to stifle that. And I've seen in the past in our company a top-down mandate for doing certain things that wasn't taken very well by people being forced to do things. So where there's value, I think it works. But another consideration is the bottom-up solutions, which sometimes are called like skunkworks. There's a lot of IT security concerns now too. So if somebody was to, without your knowing it, try something new on a project and expose the client and ourselves to security risk, because these are all startup companies that might not have like SOC 2 compliance or certain things. There's some risk involved there. So I have to be like the bad cop sometimes. But there's people like Graham Contech, my counterpart there. We were talking a little bit earlier about like, what are we? And I think Graham thinks he's in the middle, like he looks kind of both directions. And there's some people in the company that just look top down. So I think what also helps is a company that has a diverse set of thoughts and people and respects them all. Because you can't just have one strategy, you have to be open-minded. But there's considerations now we didn't have a while ago, like security being a huge one. And then also company retention as well too. Like people come in the company and they want to have a voice and make a change. And if you don't encourage them, then they go somewhere else where they're heard as well too.
The Skunk Works thing, just quickly, great book for anybody that hasn't read it. Recommend you pick it up if you haven't. But the thing that you kind of touched on there that's kind of key, Xenia talked about it too, is talent is leaving if they don't feel supported or they can't innovate. That wasn't maybe the case like a decade or longer ago. Obviously, construction's quite a hard industry. People may know that, being the folks in the room. But the change, now that you think about the people you're trying to attract, are looking for tech. And if you have a culture that's too thou shalt or thou shalt not, then you're losing out on that capability. The other thing too that you kind of touched on, which is kind of key, is cyber and risk. If you think about being a contractor now, you've got cyber insurance and risk around that, which never existed before. And so as you're introducing new technologies, you're also opening up potential risk, which is hard to think about. But when you start to put all those pieces together, you can lose people, which is the future of your company, your talent. And then you can lose your business process by bringing new technology in, shadow IT, if you don't have the right people looking at it. That's kind of a good kind of way of describing that you do need to be bottom up and top down, but in a way that you're not prescribing and telling people, but also you're not turning away innovative ideas while managing risk. So I think that's a good way to cover it. We'll jump on to something else. I think, Catherine, we're going to tap you for this one. If you think about it now, when I was looking for a solution for drones, there's only a couple you could choose back, a couple years ago even. Now you look at the reality capture space, you look at, RFP solutions, you name any vertical, and there's dozens and dozens and dozens of options out there. How do you actually go about looking at what's in the market, seeing what you evaluate and what you don't waste your time on, and then move that kind of forward at ARCO?
Yeah, so I think something that came up yesterday that is really important for us to anchor onto is making sure that we're solving a problem. I think that right now we're all kind of into emerging tech because we believe it's going to continue to push the industry forward. And it's important to kind of balance, I would say, the projects that have the why, the projects that are being asked for by individuals, but also maintaining a small percentage of things that we just believe are the future. As far as evaluating tech at this point, I mean, I probably have sat through 1,000+ demos. I feel like I have a pretty good pulse of what's real and what's a demo. We do keep internally a log of our notes as things progress. There are tools that we looked at 2 years ago that we said absolutely no way, and they've turned a corner, and all of a sudden they're really fitting the market. Vice versa has also happened where someone was acquired and really that's not a preferred tool for us anymore. ARCO works across so many different verticals. We've built anything from an industrial warehouse to a multifamily to a data center. Another thing that we found too is that because of this large market that we're in right now, there are very few tools that are going to work for every single project and every single vertical. So what we really have is more of a list of recommendations, and then if someone meets with us, we kind of help them figure out what the tech stack for their individual project will be, and less kind of saying these are the tools that you must use. That goes for everything from security cameras to reality capture to say the only thing that is mandated is the project management tool. But everything else is kind of up for debate and best fit. Also, ARCO is 5 separate construction companies that work under one umbrella, so people have legacy programs or things like that. But I think a big part of our job in innovation is just to keep a pulse. As these technologies are changing so quickly, there's a list that we kind of have highlighted that really every 6 months we should be at least checking in with those product teams to see what improvements and where their roadmap is heading, so that if and when someone gives us a phone call saying, hey, I need something that came up recently, there's a third-party monitored security camera system. I know exactly who I can call, and I'm not going to spend the next 3 days kind of researching that. So that directory is really valuable for us.
Are you guys using something like Bright Idea or an internal kind of information knowledge management system? How are you doing that directory?
We use Airtable as kind of our bread and butter, run everything through. So yeah, it's just a database at Airtable that we keep track of, and everyone on our team has access to it, so you can drop notes. You know, we ran into so-and-so at a conference, drop a note in, that kind of thing.
Nice, that's awesome. Real quick, how many folks use Procore? All right, and ACC? Or,
Yeah.
or other project management system, not, okay.
How many people use both Procore and ACC? Okay, that's interesting.
ACC or Bill?
Or ACC or Build, sorry. Nope, nobody's answering. I'm sorry, bro.
I was saying.
And then,
Of that here.
real quick, like, how are you guys also looking at that? Because I mean, EllisDon's got quite a bunch of technology that they're testing out, piloting. How do you get that information, kind of like Catherine said, from the field or to the field and get that out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot of sort of field engagement, right? So kind of keeping a pulse on what the field teams are using, what the problems are, what projects are coming down the pipeline, looking at the project requirements too, like the RFPs, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that the clients are asking for some sort of technology solution. Really integrated with our pursuit teams and our pre-construction teams, and making sure that we're you know, connected with them right from the very beginning, and being able to put that technology strategy together for the project as early as possible. And then keeping a finger on the pulse with the construction technology ecosystem, and doing the same thing, just demos and demos and demos, and keeping that log of what's out there. And always revisiting, you know, you never just put something on the shelf and forget about it. It's always a constant effort to know, because it's a very fluid landscape of what tools are out there, and acquisitions and mergers, and, you know, new product features, or, you know, things are going extinct too, or shuttering, or what have you. So it's just a constant effort of engagement and being connected with the ecosystem and our field team.
And once you decide, okay, we've got to test something out, pilot it, how do you actually go from that process you talked about to actually putting it in place now?
Yeah, so it's like, I like to think of it as like a very specific recipe, you know, of conditions that are conducive to a pilot. Because if you don't have those factors in place, then the pilot's not gonna be successful. So you need to have a project where, you know, you've got some flexibility with budget and schedule. You need to have the right team that's bought into the technology solution, and that's gonna be champions of that technology, and are willing to participate. So, you know, you need to have all those factors in place, because if you're missing one, the pilot's not gonna be successful. So, you know, going back to, you know, connected with the business and keeping a pulse on the projects coming down the pipeline, we identify those projects very early, and we know that this is gonna be a good project for piloting a tool. So we'll make sure we line up a couple of things in the queue for that project specifically, as opposed to kind of randomly scattering them out to different projects. You know, it's very targeted and strategic and focused.
And I guess, Xenia, would that be any different for ETRO? Because like EllisDon, probably 5,000 plus employees now, pretty big kind of digital team. How would ETRO go about trying to do the same thing when you have a lot less resources, but you still got to test out technology, pilot it out?
Yeah, I can really resonate though with Patrick, because every tool, you and Catherine as well, that you have to figure it out what problem we are solving, what exactly we want to do, and the project, it's important that software or platform is matching the project. Like exactly, like in our case, we will deal as well as the issues that we will not have BIM on the subcontractor side, right? And it's like I'm dealing with the design model, like how I can bring it to site, it will not get the same result, and then it will be the BIM again, the failure, right? So I have to deal with that to convince people that it's will be the right approach, because I'm still very heavy lifting on BDC, right? Like how we are bringing the proper planning to site and all the technology around data driven from the beginning till the end. And yeah, so we're very specific, and it's only one step at a time. Like in my annual goals at ETRO, it will be just 2 things that I will improve on the technological side, and then we will go into larger research. I will connect my LinkedIn people, ask them like, what do you think, what is your approach, and then exactly run tons of demos, crystallized what trials we are going in, when yes, when no. Well, you know exactly, like there's certain functionalities could be covered by multiple, but you have again like to see, oh, okay, I'm paying a little bit more, but I will get this functionality too. How much value is bring this me? Like I haven't aimed for that, right? Like, and it's like, okay, let's come on the beginning again. What is our goal? What we are resolving here? Yeah, right now at ETRO this year, if you have any suggestions, I'm actually wanted to replace Assemble. I hope there's nobody from Outdesk here, just because the bundling system is really inconvenient for us, and actually it looks like that we need to program it. There's no really replacement for that, how we're utilizing Assemble. And the other one is augmented reality, where we are running right now the Gamma AR as priority.
How many people use Assemble? And how many of you have switched off of Assemble to something else? All right, Susanna, you got to talk to figure that out. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine, please.
I was just gonna add, like, I think that that's also part of the evaluation process. Now that there are so many tools and kind of duplicates in certain marketplaces, I think the conversations that we have with each other and building the relationships to kind of be like, hey, you know, we're looking at this, what are you looking at? Oh, I've tried them or I haven't. Something interesting that I had recently was I was talking about a specific tool with someone, and I was like, we tried it and it was horrible. No one liked it and everything like that. Someone's like, oh my gosh, well, we're actually like scaling it up. And we were trying to identify like what was different, and what was different is they had a different account manager, and their account manager was kind of putting in the extra legwork. So it wasn't the tool at all, it was just the support. So I think like that has become more where like these networks that we build are so interesting to kind of like we're of a generation and of an industry where we can't kind of keep things to ourselves. We have to share our successes to continue to push the industry in its entirety.
I mean, that is a kind of a key thing, and for everyone here, I've noticed even over the past 2 days, some people are networking, other people are a little bit shy. I mean, just go out there and talk to these folks, like whether you're Canadian or American, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I don't think we've ever lost a job as contractors when I was at EllisDon to PCL because we talked about technology, right? You never lose a job because of that. It's needs, methods, it's pricing, it's a lot of other things. It's the people, the talent that you have. So I think that's the important thing, is just talk to each other and say, hey, look, how are you using this, whatever. I guarantee you nobody here is gonna say, hey, you know, hit the pavement. Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to be politically correct, but Brain doesn't operate that fast. So, I was gonna go back to construction talk, but I don't think this is the venue because Javi told me they're recording, so. But the other thing that kind of comes up out of that is kind of about culture, like not just in the industry, but overall as organizations, as businesses. I mean, you've got the mic, let's start with you, but how do you think a business can actually build a culture that doesn't stifle people bringing things up and feeling like they get beat down because they're trying to bring something up, right? What's your kind of 2 cents on that from the ARCO perspective?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because especially our field team and our project managers are so incentivized by profit and by like getting a project done that they're at ARCO, a lot of them are timid to deviate from what they know. So a part of it is working with leadership to find alternative incentive or to kind of like make it part of certain teams or certain like leaders. This is part of your career. This is part of your objectives, is to improve something by a metric. And something that we've really started doing is being completely metric driven in those. It's not, we're gonna just try these things out, but we're striving to hit X. The other part is that we're kind of making failure acceptable. That you can, I think specifically with technology, you can try things and you can learn a lot by a failure of, okay, we're not gonna go in that direction. And that's typically looked at as like they'll do everything, go out of their way to make sure that something is successful, but sometimes it's just not the right tool at the right time or a process improvement that is just not gonna work. So being there and like I think as an innovation team being able to support those people through either a pilot or through kind of a process reorganization or something like that, that's a valuable change management exercise that we have a lot of experience in that other roles don't necessarily get to flex as often.
And I mean, would it be different at Skanska, or what would be kind of the main difference when it comes to the culture and kind of creating that innovation mindset?
Yeah, well, actually, I can start a bit, just with a bit of a story about with COVID. Nobody's talking about COVID much these days, but it was, you know, maybe they are. Oh, excuse me, I'm not feeling sick. Yeah, it's kind of a catalyst for how we're doing things now. And what happened during COVID is we started working from home a lot, and you know, everyone's willing now to meet in a Teams meeting, and it's really a legitimate meeting. Before, it was really a hassle when someone said, let's meet online. You try to avoid those meetings, and why can't we meet in person? Yeah. After COVID, you can get a lot of meaning out of those meetings. And then there's also the technology adoption that happened. Like we were using like drone deployed ground, like structure side at the time. Nobody, you know, people wanted to use it a little bit, but suddenly they had to figure out ways of communicating what was happening in the projects, you know, to a larger audience that didn't want to come to the job site, like owners didn't want to do the walkthroughs. So there's kind of a catalyst that happened. But what also happened was we started using Teams a lot more. And I'd never used Teams before COVID. And now our Teams channels, we have an emerging tech team channel. And we invite people, we have a VDC network, a drone network, a laser scanning network, and then just an emerging tech community in general. And then we have different subgroups. And so that kind of created a venue for people to communicate and cross-connect. Separate from that, we got a really good system in place for identifying new technology and kind of categorizing it so that people in the company can know what we know, because we always say if Skanska knew what Skanska knew. So getting that information out there. And then also we designated a network of concierges. So these are people in different offices that meet monthly, with myself included, and Graham's included in that group too. and we go over like problems that offices might have and new technologies have vendors present sometimes. So this whole kind of networking thing that happened gives people a chance to find out what's happening in their projects, areas of problems that we can look for technology to solve, which gets rid of one of the issues like not technology for technology's sake. Yeah. But also we created a really strong community as well too. We have the concierges, we have people in these different networks. If they have a question, they can ask it. There's no such thing as a stupid question, really. Well, maybe there is, but I don't know. Like I would say Dummkopf if I was like more German. But so basically the networks that have come about have been really good to support people coming in the company. And when they don't know about it and they find out about it, like they just started and there's a network and they can learn about VEC and get more involved. And there's even a cmBuilder channel as well too. It's been really helpful. I think COVID was a catalyst, but it created the ability to leverage what really is our biggest asset, and that's our people. That's where people come in. So, they feel valued and they can contribute and learn as well too.
A couple of things, because it's come up a few times, you may have noticed, like Zena talked about it, Catherine talked about it, Albert, you talked about it, Patrick's kind of sprinkled that a little bit, as well as the culture is driven from the top down piece. That also ends up attracting the talent. The talent is how you build, that's how you get your revenue. So it all kind of ties back to that thing. And I mean, if you guys are catching Patrick later, ask him about the people, process, technology focus. But it's just so hard to.
Why comment?
Oh wow! I mean, look, timescapes all the way. If you guys want to talk about that, we have a booth in the back. But the other thing too, I'm curious about is you talked about kind of teams there. Back in the day, we used to use GoToMeeting, if you guys remember that. How many people use GoToMeeting before? There you go. That's a good example of somebody who should have been an incumbent owning the space missing it. How many people's companies now use Teams as the primary communication? And how many use Zoom as a primary? And Zoom during COVID was like, $1 trillion, making that up, a $500 billion, and now Teams is eating their lunch. So I think the thing we're learning from our contractor friends, for everyone in the technology side, Javi included, is things change fast. And if we're not listening to our clients, we can get pushed aside as well, right? Just like we saw with the video conferencing piece. Now, one thing that comes up quite a bit, and we'll keep going here, but is the fact that you can't replace FaceTime with FaceTime, like the old school FaceTime with Zoom or whatever. What's your take on that? We'll start with you, Albert, because you are in innovation. You are trying to facilitate that, but the work happens in the field with relationships. So how do you balance that old school FaceTime with the actual digital FaceTime?
Yeah, so I think the key is that it is a balance, and both Graham and I and other people in the group, we get out in the field a lot, and also having a particular set of skills is helpful. Like I'm a drone pilot, so I can go to a project and teach how to fly a drone or fly a drone or something. Graham is amazing at VDC and AR.
Just one sec. Can Graham please put his hand up? Everyone,
yeah.
That's Graham right there. I just felt bad because we know who Graham is, but the rest of you don't.
Oh yeah, and also I made a joke earlier, but if I got hit by a bus, Graham would replace me, and I have been hit by a bus recently, and I haven't been replaced yet, so it takes more than getting hit by a bus to replace me.
You gotta be careful with these things.
Was Graham driving it? I have to be careful with Graham.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess that's it.
That's it. Okay, so we're gonna kind of get into the soup du jour that yesterday took 2 hours to get into. Today it took us I don't know how long, but AI. Yeah, you guys ready? Is AI a part of the innovation strategy? Is it a part of the corporate strategy? Is it something different? Where does AI kind of sit within each of your organizations and where it comes strategically? Maybe Catherine, you can kind of kick that one off.
Yeah, so AI at ARCO has been an interesting journey. I think at first everyone just put the brakes on and said, no, thank you. And now we're trying to figure out basically how each division and each department has their own strategy, and it's different for everyone. Obviously IT they're looking at things from a security lens. They're not necessarily looking for AI solutions to implement to their own team at the moment. Our innovation team is building our own AI kind of agents to help with particular tasks that we think would be easy wins for people to just start dipping their toes in, realizing that we need to have a really strong foundation of wins and trust and success in order to jump into larger items. And then a thing that we're looking at quite often right now is, of the tools that we're using that have implemented some AI features, what are ones that we can, again, just start using where we're not taking a big risk, but we're just, people are learning, you know, the ins and outs of even how to prompt a question properly and things like that. So I would say right now, everyone is working on the getting comfortable part. And I'm hoping in the future, we're a little bit more aggressive with trying things and kind of like utilizing the massive amount of data we have to learn from.
Albert, could you kind of quickly talk about, has the perception changed because of AI now and data for contractors to become something you still hold close to your chest, or is this something contractors are more open to share because of AI and the potential benefits of having a wider pool of data?
Yeah, I can tell you, but we've got 2 AI applications internally that I'm aware of, probably more. One of them is Skanska Sidekick, and you can ask it questions about the company and pursuits and things in general. The other one is the Safety AI, and for the Safety AI, it has OSHA data in there, and it has data that we use, particularly with Skanska, and some client data. So because of that, we like to keep the data pool kind of siloed from the public side. So we generally don't want data that could be considered sensitive. You know, safety could be people's like personal information as well too, to get out into the public side. So, you know, having our data in a place that's protected and also not feeding in, like we talked about, you know, sharing what we do, but maybe AI is what we draw the line. It's like, we don't want to give you our data in AI because it might appear in ways that we don't like. And there's been a lot of talk in general in the industry about even, like I think somewhere you can copyright an mark or something, copyright your face. Like there's certain data that maybe you want to protect or keep away from other regions. So that's what we're doing internally with that. Having said that, there's also AI that's used. I can't remember the name of the software for specs and looking over specs and things, but it basically goes through your spec sheet and that picks up keywords, and you can ask it questions like, how many of these do I need, or what's the risk here, or something. So we're using AI. There's also industry AI that's built into their software, but we might have to feed our data into that, and that's where it gets kind of a little bit like, you know, we have to figure that out still, I think.
And just quickly, because we're almost out of time, can you contrast that, Pat, with EllisDon? Because your organization has created an arm, I think, called Building Digital to go and try and help contractors or other folks in the industry with data tools and AI and stuff like that. So do you guys provide your own data? Do you leverage other data? What's off the limit? What do you do to help them out there?
Yeah, so I think it's more on like the data governance and the data strategy. And you know, one thing that we were kind of fortunate in the beginning of the AI journey and these AI tools is, you know, we were making the transition to Microsoft, and you know, ChatGPT came out. You know, our cybersecurity team acted pretty quickly to shut that down, because you know, people were putting in specs and contracts, you know, into the public domain, and we shut that down and brought in Copilot and closed off the ecosystem of these AI tools into our internal network behind our firewall. So we got really good at that right away. So I think that's one of the things that we bring to other general contractors is being able to kind of set up that infrastructure and the governance policies around responsible AI within a construction organization specifically, and getting them set up for the potential tools in the future, like the large language models and, you know, automated spec writing and that kind of thing.
All right, so if you guys need help with that, Patrick's here. You can reach out to him later on. You got something? Yeah, jump in.
Does Gate 3 exist?
Yes, Gate3 does exist, and essentially that's our PM software that we built internally, and it's helpful actually in this day and age, because we do have all that sort of back-end infrastructure already built. So our system is actually sort of an integrator of different platforms, and has been a good foundation for, you know, these large language models and data models.
Awesome. All right, we'll get into the fun part. You guys ready?
Yeah.
We'll do a rapid fire to wrap up and then open up to questions. So the first one, one word, what will unlock the next wave of innovation in construction?
My word is collaboration.
Very similar to what I was going to say. Yeah, I think just, innovation, right? Just the continuous improvement, right? Always getting better than you were yesterday. I think Phil, you mentioned the 1%, or just getting 1% better. Yeah, cmBuilder mentioned that, and just having that philosophy baked in. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, we had a week to think about this, by the way. So, I was just gonna say, like, people are open-minded as to people, but just being willing to change. Being willing to, I don't know if there's one word for that or not, but there's such a word for that. But maybe there's a German, there's a word for that.
I think I would anchor on just empathy. Empathy of the people trying to make the change and the people who are kind of implementing the change, and just making sure that we're like understanding where both perspectives are coming from.
Yeah, that's a good one. As well for this who are implementing it, right?
Yeah.
Having a hard time.
All right, are we up for time?
Go on.
Go ahead. All right, one last quick rapid fire for you guys. Do you want to wrap? What is one tool or software that you're piloting right now?
I just wrapped up a pilot with QPix.
We're looking into Nextera, automated site capture.
We're looking at one called Quant AI right now. It does people and workforce tracking AI through turnstiles and things like that.
Yeah, I was mentioning already. Gamma.
Perfect. There you go. Now we're going to turn it over to the audience. And please don't all go at once.
Want me to run? Okay. Get my steps in.
You should have run this morning.
I know I skipped this morning. Slacker.
That was a very insightful panel, thank you. I know Mark touched into this question and there were answers, but I think I'd like more tips, and with a ton of emerging technologies in the construction industry, how are we avoiding tech fatigue and ensuring the internal teams are not overwhelmed with change constantly?
Yeah. We actually had a survey at Skanska to reduce burden, a burden reduction survey. So that's actually very timely, because it's something, I don't think I have the answer, but just make sure everybody's aware of it, that if a project team is good at adopting technology, there's evangelists there, you throw them more technology and more until eventually they might not be on your side anymore. So I think it's an insightful question. I don't have an answer, but I think someone else sure will, but I just want to say that we're really aware of that too.
Yeah, I think just overall, some are just the awareness, right? Like, every time we look at a new solution, we bring it to the business, it's got to have the end goal of consolidation of touch points and, user interfaces and login experiences and all that kind of stuff. So that's always like a critical part of the evaluation process when we're looking at a tool. And then when someone brings a problem or a suggestion of a new software, we always look in our internal tech stack and see what the capabilities are of our existing tools that we already have. So that's a critical piece of the evaluation process, and very much front of mind when they're looking at new technology.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next?
Yeah, maybe a bit of overlap there, but a lot of these tools aren't necessarily cheap, right? Like Procore is not a renowned to be very expensive tool. Yeah, and so tying that all in, I'm kind of curious, and this answer may vary between all of you guys, but like, where are you finding the budget for this? Like, is it something that you're charging on a per project basis to the owner? Are you sharing the cost with your trading partners? Are you eating in the margins because of the ROI you're getting out of this? Is it something that you're keeping strategic, close to your chest on on your approach to that? I'm kind of curious.
I can take a stab at this, but yeah, you definitely have to, we call it creative accounting. Find budget items and ways to fund some of these things. We do allocate, some, overhead costs for innovation and pilots and things like that, but we always try to get it, put through the projects in one way or another as like a value add or a service or something that, the projects could pay for. But it definitely takes a lot of creativity with the project teams, to find budget for software and technology.
I was going to say that it depends on the region and the project. We have some clients, I can't name them because they're confidential clients, which is kind of cool to say that. You can imagine who they could be anybody. But they have budgets for innovation, and they come to us sometimes and ask us to do things. And we are able to use those projects to test out new things that the client and ourselves think there's value. And then if there is, implemented on other projects. And also to note that if you have a technology on a project that's working, okay, that's in your tech stack you're already paying for, but a project team comes with a competing different technology, there might be a reason for that. And so then you have to start asking yourself some tough questions about what you're using and what the new tech has. And sometimes projects are willing to pay extra, even though it might even come out of the general conditions or some other part, because there's enough value in that new technology, and then you really pay attention to it. But there are a lot of projects that have budgets for technology too.
Yeah, I think I'm the cheapest one here. I don't have budget. This is the reason why I like to go to the networking events and meet people who are just starting with the new tools and software. And this is the reason why our software connection is maybe not the classical out there. It's the reason why we started early with the cmBuilder to get a good deal. Obviously, in exchange for additional working hours and bring additional feedback. So basically, yeah, you're collaborating with the software developers, and in exchange, you're developing the tool and getting a good deal for your project. As well as ETRO is small to middle-sized construction company. We don't have the same budget as these guys have. As well, explaining that to big software developers out there, look, if you want to move in this spectrum of market, you have to change your strategy, right? Like create something else, and I will like having long negotiations and massage, or just like coming with my offer, right? Like, look, I know that my PM will pay for it just 3K. We know for the question, but 3K, that's what I can pay. Yeah, usually we are coming to the compromise, so I will as well engage you to negotiate the prices out there.
Quick follow-up question, can you each hide a couple shekels for hammer tech?
Yeah, I can add to that. Just a few more thoughts as we were talking here, but the partnerships is really important. And so one of the things that we did, and a lot of you helped with this, you were with us, is consolidating and centralizing procurement, and forging strategic partnerships and enterprise agreements with tools that we use a lot. Because we were purchasing one-off subscriptions of things, throughout the business, and it was costing us a lot more money. So we're actually more efficient. We were saving money by doing the strategic partnerships, which allowed for a little bit more breathing room in our budget to fund more innovation.
Well, actually, the other one, sorry, last one. We as well engaged in multiple. It has abbreviation. No, it's kind of like additional money that you're getting for your innovation. So it's like no, that's something else. This is like government based, but it's as well like yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we have like a table where we are bringing all our crazy ideas. And like looking how we can. Well, the problem is that you have to really budget your innovation first, like how much money you will invest, and then you will get the return.
All right, I've got a question around operationalizing. A lot of times we're talking about just adding technologies. How do we phase out technologies to then have freed up budget to be able to then get the next technology to support innovation?
You can answer that. I'm just joking.
I think we we've kind of found this a little bit with technologies that were maybe popular 5-10 years ago, where there might still be a few stragglers. There's one tool in particular, it's like a photo sharing app that some of our project teams like really love. And the tool has essentially been sunset. We're just kind of like riding until they like actually pull the plug offline. And a lot of the conversations have been, you know, just like this, because to realize that someone, it might have taken them a few years to even be comfortable using it in the first place, and then to roll off of it, it's a whole, you know, it's a whole process change for these people. So I think a lot of what we're doing is kind of doing the evaluation of what tools are we using, where do we have duplicates. Again, like our tools have certain tools kind of turned up their features, so now these are actually quite the same. And is it now easier to make a switch? Why, you know, it's just really the communication part. And I think also doing those kind of licensing searches, now that more things are SaaS based and everyone can just log in and create their own account, it's really, really hard for us across 2,000 employees to understand who has licenses specifically for kind of the Canva-like tools or all of those types of things. We do a license search and we're like, oh, we have 250 users and only one person is like manning an enterprise account. So they think that's one where we can kind of like start squeezing things to understand, hey, can we just like switch this and get that extra funding to over here? It's all kind of creative.
I would just add that sometimes it catches you by surprise. Like we had fairly recently, Prolog decided they were just going to Photoshop. So sometimes you have a great solution, and then especially with startup companies, they might not make it, like VHS versus Betamax. So you have to hitch your horse to the right, cart to the right horse. Is that how I say it? Yeah. So those are things to think about too.
All right. Last one?
We already jumped over. We got one here. Right after ourselves.
So along the same line as Graham, you know, now that we're scenario pun intended, we get past the pilot phase, right, and now we start implementing or entering enterprise agreement, right, and everybody get their licenses and whatnot. How are we able to, in your experience, how are you able to make sure that implementation is across the organization and it's just not essentially building that new technology into the standard operation procedure, making it a requirement and not optional, while, you know, staying somewhat flexible to, I guess, to adapt to any changes in technology that may potentially come in and replace what you just acquired. Because what we've been seeing is we buy, say, like three different technologies, not to name, but maybe Smartsheet and bureaus or Rights that do more of the same things, and different area using different tools, and that's how were you able to, or still finding challenges with standardization and making sure that we consolidate the user base toward one tool?
Something that I've been making sure is included in more and more of our agreements are kind of what we're asking of the technology in order to help support. So whether that's a dedicated account manager or a certain number of training hours or an SLA for response times, because that also lifts the burden off my team, so we're able to do a little bit more. And honestly, for a lot of startups, I think that's kind of a bare minimum. I spent 4 years at a startup, and I would have done anything at any time for any of my customers, and I think that sometimes that mentality isn't there. So if I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket, I want to know that you're going to be there to support me. So I think also just being really intentional about the implementation plan for some of the tools, where we're going to always prioritize in-person training. It's expensive, it takes a lot of time, but I really do believe, especially for our field staff, that is the only way of learning. We're not gonna get everyone on a webinar at the same time. People are not gonna learn digitally. They need to know, hey, if something's coming up on my iPad, I need someone to go over there and click the button for them. So really just being real about different learning styles and what the support plan is, because I think it takes a little bit more effort to train in these in-person and kind of duplicative ways, but that's gonna just save us time down the road of the headaches of something wasn't working right, so I'm gonna go find another tool to replace this tool. So just being really intentional about that and not just kind of like throwing a tool out there and hoping that it works.
What I found as well, yeah, exactly. Originally, intentionally to decide what is it going to be, so not having multiple solutions out there. It's even in ETRO the case. But my approach will be as well to serve more people, right? That if this tool can serve more people, then I will go for that instead of like one person is happy with that, right? And it's the same strategy what we're trying with the AI. So it's like, obviously everybody can come with the great idea how AI can help my day-to-day, but what exactly, how it can be developed this way that all ETRO employees can benefit.
And just to add to that is targeted training and the timing of those trainings. So if you're going to do the training, you want to make sure that the people you're training are going to be using that tool actively immediately after, right? And otherwise, if you're just doing sort of like blanket mandated training on tools and then they turn around and not use that specific tool on their project, then they're going to forget about it, and it's going to be a bit of a wasted effort. So train at that onboarding phase and make sure that they're going to be using that tool immediately after, so it kind of embeds into their process. I think that's one important factor. And then the other thing is leaning heavily on the customer success managers of the software vendor that you're purchasing. You're paying for that essentially in a subscription. So utilize it and lean on them heavily.
Maybe one more question, or two more questions, and then we'll wrap. And then we could just take it into the. You guys are cooking. You're cooking right now. We're gonna be here all day, and literally this coming out there.
We'll take it outside after this.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Marcel. If you want to go first, and then we'll do a cut.
Thanks. This might be a repeat of some of the questions already, but what do you feel has been most successful in addressing or contributing to scalability of any particular, doesn't have to be any particular tool, but just of any tools that address a use case or a need?
I think for us, it's timing, and that if we're rolling out a tool, not everyone is at the same point in their project, and recognizing that if we're rolling out, let's say like a new scheduling tool, which we wouldn't do, but we'll use that example. If we're rolling out a new scheduling tool, we're not going to train everyone and everyone's going to switch like tomorrow. Like our projects could be 2 years long, so it's like you can expect that we'll be doing training in 2 years for that group of people. So kind of just in all of these things, recognizing the cyclical nature of construction and that you're not going to catch everyone at the same time all the time. So even when we're putting out like our rollout plans and stuff, there's always like a buffer for like getting second wave and things like that.
Yeah, I think the timing is really important, and also like budgeting is important too. So if you're looking at scaling something, you probably have like an enterprise agreement that you're looking at. And I know like cmBuilder, for instance, like I think Javi mentioned before, but they have like unlimited users. So if you're gonna scale something, you have to have like for a top round to move with it forward. And some startup companies, when they have something that could go enterprise-wide, they try to charge per like license, or there are companies that have been more successful for us that charge per construction value, like how many million or any kind of company, billion or trillion dollars you do a year or something. You charge based on that, knowing that they're going to get full adoption. But those are things that help with scaling, because if you have a bad kind of financial model, it might be disincentive to get people to use it. And I think like Autodesk is an example too, with the enterprise licenses and things, that kind of opened the gate to democratize some of the technology that we use. I don't want to mention the name in good light maybe, but that's the truth though. So I think that that's a big factor too.
Sorry, I had to smile because my solution to scale something will be to go to Michael Dan and demand that they will shoot an email that it's our standard and people have to use it. And the joke by side, then it will be introduced by standardization. So exactly, it will be just nailed down to the standard program. And we have ETRO net where we have like a map, like what is happening on each phase, and this will be detailed documentation. Okay, in this phase or in this case, you're using certain things, so it will be mandated. And it's exactly again coming to our first questions, top down. Like if you don't have this support, somebody who is saying this is my minimum expectations of quality of how the things have to be executed, then yeah, I guess it's going to be a long way up.
All right.
It's basically, Xenia told you, and here's a whip, so do it.
Yeah, I know. I just felt like, okay, this is my German-Russian accent. It's the right thing to say. Yes, you need it. You need it, guys. Sorry.
Go ahead. So let's just do 2 quick ones, and then we'll then do a rapid fire demo. And then go.
So considering that buy-in is obviously the most important thing by sites, because they're the builders, and at how the rate that things change, have you ever seen a site use all of the tools that you're trying to implement all at once with high success? And have you noticed the success of that implementation? Like, yeah, because I've never seen it, right? Because it changes so fast. And then we're being, right, like you said, Xenia, you have to use this now, but last project it was something different. And have you ever seen all of those tools work really well together?
I should just have one quick answer. And one thing we look at too is software that plays well together. So if you're using Procore and you're already paying for it, you have plugins, for drone deploy and things that work with it. That's one way of getting everything to work together, is that you have a complementary bundle of software. So that's integration.
I think something along the lines too is just like the trust that certain groups have within our team. So we have one group that does multifamily in Northwest Arkansas and St. Louis kind of area, and they've really spent time to get to know us, so that when we come and say, hey, I have this thing that I want to test, they know that like I vetted it and they believe in my ability to do that. And there's a couple projects where they're very much yes and people. I call Alan and I'm like, hey Alan, 4D scheduling? He's like, yes. I'll give you this project, or I'll give you that project. And I think part of it is that just that mentality. Like, they know that I've done the legwork to kind of be like, I want to test this particular thing, it's ready to go on a job site. Also, I'm going to be there to support it, to kind of lift that burden of learning and everything like that. But I just think that's like such a helpful mindset for us. And now, like, they're going to be early adopters in a lot of new technology just because they were willing to try it. And other people, we'll call them later, but I know I don't want to have to prove my point every single time.
Yeah, and just quickly as well, that it's I haven't had a project where kind of the new technology bundle was coming down. We have to implement all new. So it's like a small steps, right? And yes, it really depends on people. So it's the reason why I guess my word is collaboration, because that's if you have this good experience with PM, the superintendent, they are friends forever, and exactly they will always say, like, if it's something new, exactly unexpected, even though the project is super hard, they know that you are caring for them, you are bringing this knowledge and responsibility, and you will guide them. So I would say yes. So I'll success on from the beginning till the end, where I thought they will jump up, where people were taking off my plate and running it.
Okay, last question here. Go ahead.
Albert, when you mentioned earlier that owners are kind of coming to you with like a budget for kind of innovation, kind of looking more at a specific area that it could be where we're based out of, but in the Midwest in the United States, specifically Minnesota. I think we have a trend that we see a lot of our BIM models once the construction, we use them really greatly in the construction phase, but you get off to the owner side once everything's done. How are you seeing, or what kind of trends are you seeing in facility management with BIM, the owners kind of taking over that side of everything?
Yeah, I think honestly, I don't have a good answer because it's changed. Like 3 or 4 years ago, that might have been, like I was talking about the digital asset is really important, and we try to sell it to the teams, that, you know, the owner that will give you this at the end. And then often it's turned over in the wrong format, and it, you know, I know Autodesk had a couple softwares out there that are supposed to be FM types of software. I don't know if someone else has a better answer in this group than I do, but I do know that there are different ways of delivering as-built now. Yeah, I can't wait to get it to you. Because I can learn something too. But you know, we do turn over things like the 360 photos. We can give a deliverable of like your site completely documented. You can go back in time and see what's happened. So that's one kind of deliverable. There are laser scanning as-builts that are being done as well. You can do laser scan and then adjust the model to fit the scan if that's what's needed. But I don't know if there's a good answer yet.
I feel like there's a lot of build-up for my answer. So yeah, so essentially, like the way I like to put it is, you know, a lot of it's centered around BIM, and BIM is essentially a database, right, of the building, all the systems and components of that facility. And so you want to carry that through all the way from construction to the handover and the operations and maintenance. And, EllisDon is kind of uniquely positioned because we're also facility managers as well. We do a lot of maintenance contracts on P3 projects and things. So we have the opportunity to be both the constructor and the owner on some projects. So we're actually, you know, working on that handover and digital delivery process all the way through, that we can then turn around and provide that same service to our clients.
Is it successful?
Of course.
Okay.
I have seen it, guys.